Hello, hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melissa Ragland from Weekly Motivations, the podcast. And I have with us today a very special guest. Her name is Connie McNutt. And she is here to share her message with you all today. So I want you to chime in. And her message is to have the courage and to continue to move forward. Embrace that power that is within you so that you can walk through trauma. Okay. And no matter what you do, you can turn your life around. These are her messages. You have the ability to survive anything that you have gone through or that you are still facing today. You have the ability to face your challenges and you can survive it. You can overcome anything that you are facing today. Okay. So I want to welcome you. Connie, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Absolutely wonderful. I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for joining us.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
California. I was born in California, but grew up in Arkansas. Didn't come back to California until my young adulthood, mid 20s.
All right. So
So most of my rearing is from the South.
okay. So how was that culturally? Were you integrated with the different cultures or how was that?
No, it was really hard to leave California, and because I lived in the Mojave Desert in California, and then when we moved to Arkansas, there were all these trees, and it was all so green, and like I couldn't see anything. When you live in the desert, it's all vast, and I know a lot of people bang on the desert because it's bare and brown, but I mean, the golden hues were so beautiful at dusk and dawn, and I used to swing on my swing and look at the valley and the mountains. And then I get to Arkansas and there's these trees and they're everywhere and they're right up on you. And I felt so claustrophobic. And now that I'm back in California, I miss the greenery of the trees. So it's funny. It's always better somewhere else, I guess.
Okay. So did you spend a lot of time in Arkansas? Very good explaining that. I like that. Very good
Thank you.
visual.
Yeah, I moved to Arkansas when I was 10, and didn't come back to California until I was 27. So
Oh,
it was a long time that I spent in the South, but I really missed the desert a lot.
were people together there, like, because you're from the West Coast when you were growing up, and you know how we're all together in one big pot and we all get together
You
and
know, it is interesting because in the South, I grew up in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and in the South, the sense of community is a lot stronger than it is here in Los Angeles. And there are that togetherness and the family dinner on the weekends, getting together. I dated guys that had really big families, and there were always gatherings and dinners and celebrations. And there's not that, and that was never really a big part of my family, but that was a big part of the culture that I got to experience while I lived in the South.
that's true. I did see that when I've traveled there. It's a lot of family.
It is.
And what about the culture? Where did you see a lot of the mixed diversity of the culture of their
There, well,
no.
it's interesting because when I grew up in the desert, I lived in an impoverished area called Lancaster, California, and I was friends with a lot of different kids from different backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. So for me, moving to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, it was not that big of a shock to be around a mixed diversity of culture. Um,
Oh, so it was
but
that there?
and now that I'm back in it was very well. It's being a white person in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I was a minority,
Oh,
so
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was actually offered a minority scholarship to UAPB,
Oh,
University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, in
okay.
my senior year.
Yes.
Um, I ended up going further north
Okay.
to a college further north in Arkansas, but yeah, so I've always enjoyed being around people from different backgrounds
Yeah, and
than
that's funny.
myself. And I think, go
That's
ahead, I'm sorry.
no, really quick. Just it's funny that you mentioned that because I was just reading last night. Have you ever heard of you and it's a college United Negro College Fund? Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
And so I was really shocked to see that written on a piece of paper in this day and age, right? But and so somebody was asking, well, do you have to be do you have to be a person that can be a different race? And I said, of course, you can do that in order to join a college. It's just that's what the name of it is. But I'm like, but still on the day, people still use the word Negro, right? But some people say
It
that
feels archaic.
it feels so weak. Like I'm like, huh? But they have built colleges and funding around that name, Negro. So
Yeah.
and then you don't have there's like so it's not just so I opened my mind, right? So I said, okay, you don't have to just be like of a black person, right? To just get those funds. You could be of anything. So I changed my way of thinking and said, okay, I'm not gonna think like, oh, that word's used just for black people because it's not.
It, but you're right. It does require a bit of a paradigm shift in yourself to be able to wrap your head around it.
In this day and age because it's what's
Yeah.
going on. Even in the schools, are still using that. So I could see them offering you that college like that. They're right. So the whole thing is just weird. But oh, okay, right. We're not gonna claim that anybody. I guess it's for everyone. We're just all
Exactly.
I'll take it.
Yep. Exactly.
Connie, okay. Now you were trying to make a point. You were trying to make a point before I interrupted you. Do you remember what you were going to say? Okay.
No, I don't. I am
Let's,
so sorry.
it's okay. Let's get into your story. So
Okay.
yeah. This is a story of overcoming the this is what I want to complete my sentence, okay, ladies and gentlemen. But this is a topic where I strongly believe in. That's why I'm so honored to have you on the show. This is why I have this
Thank you.
podcast. You are so welcome. I'm so happy and honored to have you here because your story is exactly what I need so it could be said to parents. Mothers, stop leaving your daughters at home with your boyfriends that you just met or your husbands that you just married. Stop doing that, please. And men, if you have, stop leaving your kids with just anyone. This is not just a one-sided situation where just men are just this way, right? Women are too.
Yeah.
Boys get hurt too.
Yes.
So just please stop leaving your children unattended with people that you really don't know. This is what this show is about today. So Connie, I'm going to let you share your story. Tell us about your childhood. What was it like growing up?
Um, well, it was chaotic. I was born into addiction and confusion and violence. I was taken home from the hospital to my grandmother's home where my aunt still lived. She hadn't moved out yet. And I was taken home on Halloween night and put right by the door. My bassinet was put right by the door, and trick or treaters were coming and going, and they slid. I slept right through all of it. And it was my grandmother and my aunt that took a lot of care of me. My mother, after she had me, I think she lived there off and on, but she was in and out a lot. So my primary caregivers were my grandmother and my aunt, initially in the beginning, and they kept life
Connie,
Well, she's one of those.
you're kind of going in and out.
Hear me okay?
Okay, go
Is
ahead.
that better?
We're having a little bad connection.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, keep on talking. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So, my grandma was an um, she was one of those. Can you can't hear you?
You keep going. It's okay. If I mute,
Go. Okay.
if I mute, this is because I need the producer to check on services. But you keep talking.
Oh, okay. So sorry. There was a fair person.
Connie, you're going.
Big.
I can't catch it. You're going in and out.
Let me take my earbuds out and see if
Let's take yes. Okay. Me- Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Connie. Connie. No. Ladies and gentlemen, give us a minute. Did you unplug your ear? Did you unplug them, like turn them off? No. Mm-mm. Can you hear me? You can hear me talking to you? Can you hear me, Connie? You can't? Okay. Something, something unplugged on your site, Connie. Go ahead, take your time. Let's see.
How about that? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. What'd you do? Did you turn something off?
Okay. I turned off the Bluetooth.
That's what I was saying. Turn that off. Okay.
Oh,
Now I can hear you clear now, Connie. Yeah, don't use those.
okay. Yeah, let's not use those. We'll stay away from those. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm here for.
Okay.
So tell me, let's go back.
Let's go back.
Yes.
When I was so it was pretty much my grandmother and my aunt, and my mother was like in and out of the picture. But when I was about 5, my mother decided that she wanted me to move in with her. And so I was taken away from my home, my toys, my animals, my grandmother, my aunt, to live in this place that I'd never seen before. And I remember she had these cattails in a vase over by a door. And I mean, it was nothing like what I was used to my whole life. So I was very homesick to be with my grandmother and my aunt.
So tell the audience, they would like to know, did you know your mother? Did you see her? Did you have a relationship with her, or did she just come out of nowhere to take you away?
No, she was around. She was in and out. I don't have a lot of memories of her from my early childhood when I lived with my grandmother and my aunt. My memories are predominantly of my grandmother and my aunt.
Yes.
And they were my mom and dad, for lack of better terms, but
Yes.
they were the ones who gave me everything, the security, the comfort. But so my mother was not a stranger when she moved me into her home with her. She was someone I knew. But it was uncomfortable because nothing was familiar.
And were you happy about this? Usually kids are really happy, Connie, when they're finally able to see their parent and move in with them. Like they've been longing for this moment to happen. And it just
That was not the case for me.
right. We see you really
That was not something that I longed for. Like, I was home when I was with my grandmother and my aunt. That was my home.
your aunt was
And
more of a mother to you.
say that again.
Was your aunt your sister's mother? Your mother's sister, correct? Was your aunt? Was
Yes,
she
correct.
more of a mother to you?
She was a mother to me, and my grandmother was a mother to me. So I had two moms. Yeah, I was very lucky, and I was very protected. I was very taken care of, you know. But to go from that to my mother, who was my mother, um, and she tried, God love her. I remember falling on my bike and she would fix my wounds, and she was very gentle with me. When I got sick, she would take care of me, but she just really lacked an ability to to provide outside of herself. It just wasn't, mothering wasn't like in her purview, if that makes sense.
Motherhood was not it for her.
No, no, she's a fabulous businesswoman, and she carried herself well, but being a mom was not, the nurturing, loving, getting down to my level, that kind of stuff was not in her wheelhouse.
And so tell us about your father. Was your father in the picture ever, Connie?
No, he and my mother, their divorce was final by the time I was 6 months, and he had actually, I've never met him. And the story is that he actually had stabbed her in the stomach when he found out she was pregnant, because he did not want to have to deal with a baby.
That's deep. That's like
That,
over the top.
yeah. And she told me that when I was like 8 or 9 years old, and asking about him. It was right around the time I was starting to realize that there was a biological father for me. Like, I was piecing all this together. I was about 8 or 9, and she told me this story about him stabbing her in the stomach, and she showed me her scar on her stomach just below her belly button. And I mean, just to take that in as a child, that someone did not want me so much that they were willing to hurt my mom to get rid of me. Like, that's a heavy thing for a kid to hear.
Yes, it is. Okay, so
yeah,
Connie, so you got through that. That was something you had to get through. So when you went to live with mom, what happened? What took place when you went to that unfamiliar home? Did you ever start feeling comfortable with her? What was that environment like? Was she a single mother raising you?
It was very lonely. The whole place was very adult. There was nothing set up for me, the kid.
She didn't make it seem like a child, like she didn't have your roommate up, like the girl stuff.
I had a room, and I was allowed to bring some of my toys with me, but I do not remember anything special, like kid-like about it.
Oh yeah, like I remember my strawberry shortcake setup, my Michael Jackson little setup, my stand, my TV, my bed. My mom always it was the animals. She never had anything. She didn't have it. You get your kids' room ready.
Yeah, right. No,
no. Adult like. Wait, what?
I was basically her roommate. Like, I was. Yeah. But she did. No, I don't want to. She did take care of me, like I said, like when I hurt myself or when I was sick. And she cooked meals, and
she didn't have motherhood embedded in her.
It wasn't in her blood. It was not.
So Connie, how did that make you?
And it was shortly.
Like, did you ever tell your grandma,
go ahead,
take me back?
Oh, yes, I called my grandmother all the time, and I would cry, and I would ask them to come get me. And I would tell my mom, I really want to go home. I want to be with grandma. I want to be with my aunt. And I do remember, and there were no, I didn't have any friends. There were no kids on the street. And I just, it was I was lonely. I was so lonely. I
I
just
can
wanted to
almost
go home.
imagine. Like
Um,
I get this
yeah.
picture with you and your grandma and your aunt. It was so fun. It was happy. There was food there. There was love there. It was warm there. Like I could feel like there was probably
And play.
home.
They
There
played
was
with
play.
me. Yeah, there was play. Like we played. I played kitchen, and I played cooking, and I played make believe, and they
Impressive.
read books to me. Mostly it was mostly my aunt doing all of this. My grandmother was not quite a player. Um, Although she was very big and smiley, and that was the alcohol, which I did not know at the time. But and to her credit, she quit alcohol cold turkey. She just said, I'm done. And she banned it from the refrigerator, from the house, and nobody was allowed to bring it in. And she just, bam, she was done. She just made that decision.
Yeah, but her daughter wasn't, which was your mother.
No,
And that's
her,
another thing. Your mother was an alcoholic. Did she do drugs too, Connie?
that she did do drugs. I watched her do drugs. I watched her. She also, when I was a little bit older, did pharmaceutical, like got into pharmaceutical stuff.
You watched her?
But it's, and the biggest thing I remember is the mood shift or the personality shifts. Because when she was sober, she was one way, but then when she was below consciousness, it was a whole different personality that I had to adjust to as a
Yeah,
kid.
it was two.
Which,
Her
yeah,
personalities were different. And that's what happens when
yeah,
you come from a family with addiction. You see those different personalities. And so
you
you
do.
learn to stand guard. You have to see.
Yes, yes. Yes, you learn how to watch the signs, and you learn how to move around the addict when they're below consciousness. It's a very precarious way of living.
And you started living this way at the age of 5 when you left grandma and aunt's house.
Yes, yeah, and it was not long after that, within a year, we moved out of that house and into another situation
Okay, tell
where
us about that situation. How old were
she,
you at this time?
so this is like around 6ish. um she had taken, and it's just pops of memories that I remember, but I remember her taking me to this family's house, that a family I had never met, and my bags were packed, and she left me there, and they had a daughter, and so I was I guess hanging out with this new family. And their daughter and I were playing, and their daughter was, well, she handled her baby dolls differently, because I was always very careful with my baby dolls and loving with my baby dolls, and this girl spanked her dolls and punished them, which was something that I had never really experienced. My grandmother, my aunt, never punished me ever. Um, and so when I think I went to the bathroom, or I went and did something, and when I came back, that little girl had my doll and was spanking my doll. And I just remember going hot and seeing red. And the next thing I know, I was just wailing on her. I had my doll, but I took her doll and I was beating her with her doll. So much so that she was screaming, and both her parents had to come in, and they eventually peeled me off of her. And I just remember I couldn't stop clawing and screaming and kicking, and I was out of control. I was raging. I was just everything, all the confusion, all the unfamiliarity, all the desire to be back home, everything that I had been living with came out of me on that little girl. And so for her parents to get a hold of me, they had to lock me in a coat closet.
How long were you there
Shut
for?
I was I have no concept of time, but I can tell you this much. I remember ripping all the coats down and banging on the door and scratching at it, and the hangers were falling on me. And then eventually I just kept screaming and crying, but I realized I had my baby doll in there with me. Like, they threw my baby doll in there with me. So I had my baby. So I gathered up my baby and I rearranged all the coats, and I made a pallet and made sure my baby was comfortable, covered and safe, and I got myself comfortable, and I think I just cried myself to sleep. And I don't know how long I was in there, but the next thing I remember is that door, which the only light I had in there was from around the door, and they opened it and it was so bright, and they said, your mom's coming. And they had my stuff packed, and it was right by the front door, and the coat closet was right by the front door. And I was like, oh, okay, so my mom's coming. And I have my baby doll, and then they open the front door. My mom's coming up this lawn with this white dress and her hair all pretty and a white flower in her hair, and she's so happy. And she says, oh, Connie, I want you to meet your new dad. This is his name, and this is going to be your name. Your new name is Connie. And then she made me spell the name and spell it over and over and make sure I spelled it right. And this is your new name, and this is your new dad. And he was down there by this green, some kind of 1970s car. It was like avocado green, and he was leaning up against it. And she was all happy, and he was just back there by the car. And that was it. I never saw that family again. And I have my baby doll. So I guess, I was lucky because I never had to go back to that house again. I assume they probably told my mom what I did.
But she
I
didn't
don't
say
know.
it to you. She didn't tell you, so maybe they didn't.
Nobody said anything to me. And it was just like a bad dream or something.
It sounds like a bad dream because just picture you're a little girl, you're going through all these transitions. Well, not even like these events or these things are happening, and you're little and you're looking around up to all these unfamiliar faces, places, and
Everything, the
go back
smells,
home. But
that's all I wanted.
It's like, I need to go back home. I need to go because
That's all I wanted.
so it's like you're just living in a bad dream, like, am I awake? Like, am I gonna wake up? Like, what? So that's why you're over here like raging out and doing these things, because that's like really what you really feel. And it just can't.
It was like a Pandora's box, and this it's almost like I turned into a monster and was just raging, just had no control, no ability to stop.
But you saw her beat on that baby, girl, you went crazy. You was like,
I just thought I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't allow the thought of someone spanking my baby doll.
I mean, you were already protecting, and you were already in that mode of knowing that this isn't right. You're with strangers you've never met before. You don't know these people. You've just been dropped off with some people you don't know, honey. And even at that age, I think too that parents think that at 5 years old you have no sense of what's going on. You'll forget, you're young, you don't know, so I can just take you here. But no, kids know at 5. Kids,
It's
kids know when they're babies that
yes,
they're in a safe place or not.
yes.
At babies, they're smart, they're intelligent, and people still they underestimate even a baby that's born that just came into the world that they don't know, and they do know. They're
They
getting
do know.
smell, just everything. Right?
Yeah,
We are some powerful people here.
yeah.
So how would you think that we
Oh.
don't know? Or yeah,
And
it's
it was so hard for me to assimilate in that home with that family, because I had no clue who these people were, and my mom left, and I
well,
was
she's an
like,
alcoholic,
okay,
so she's on a whole different. Her mind's always
level.
somewhere. She never
Yes,
thinking.
yeah,
She's always trying to drown her thoughts with alcohol. You drown your thoughts. You're not thinking. Like you're just like you're flooded. Your brain's flooded. How do you're not even making, you don't even know when you wake up the next day what you did yesterday. So she don't even know that she just dropped you off to this family. Like she's not thinking it
yeah,
through. Do you,
yeah.
alcoholics, you don't.
That's and from my perspective, all I knew is that I just had to adjust. Okay, I'm here with these people I've never met, and I'm walking around looking at their home, and they're telling me this is here and that's there, and my mom left. Like I
Like
was
she's
like,
not here
she's
with me. Who
gone.
are you
My
guys?
mom's gone. I know, that's
That's
I just and then I just remember being in that little girl's room and watching her play and thinking it was so bizarre how she was handling her toys and treating them like it felt like such disrespect or I don't know. I mean, it was just
it.
so unfamiliar from the
What,
way I played
what it what,
with
right.
my
But
aunt and my grandmother.
because she was displaying probably what's been going on in that home.
Yeah.
That's all. And
Well, and now that now that adult me thinks about it, and I think if a kid were raging like that in my house, I would know that they were hurting, and I would try to and let them know I'm there, and then console them, and I get it, and this is very hard. Like, there'd be a lot of, I think as an adult, I can realize now, man, if they did that to her every time she lost her mind, they locked her in a closet,
look what they did.
so yeah, you're right.
Look what
It
they did.
does make sense that she was showing kind of how she was treated in her home.
Yeah, because that's exactly what they did to you.
Yeah,
Locked you in the closet. They took out the
yeah.
feet, but they did you a different way. You remember this for the rest of your, they put you in a closet. Who does that? Who are
I
these?
just remember
They
being
can't hold you and
grateful
say, "Are
for
you okay?" Like the matter. Like,
nothing.
okay, let me lock you in the closet. Who does that? That's why this show, that's why Weekly Motivations, the podcast, is the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going
Yeah.
to do a part 2 because we have run out of time and this story must continue because Connie has to share her story today. So we're,
Thank you.
yes. So you're up for part 2, Connie?
I'm up for part 2. Thank you.
What a blessing. Yeah, you're welcome. The audience, they deserve to hear it because someone else is going through this or know someone that's going through this. And another thing is that Connie, and most people, they won't help. Most people, they suffer in silence. They don't tell what's going on with them or ask questions, or people will see someone that's going through these things, a child, and won't help that child. Will keep it like, oh, it's not my business. What kind of world are we living in? So we're going to continue here. Let's get off. Let's take a break, and I am going to let you know when we're ready, and we're going to come right back on. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So let's
Yes.
here, and then we're going to do part 2. with Connie
Okay.
McNutt, ladies and gentlemen. So stay
Thank
tuned and we'll be right back on. So